So you're telling me there's a chance. We're going to find out. But welcome on in to another episode of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Kirby. And with me here, as always, my fantastic Gold Glove winning double play partner who's deciding to go a bit portable tonight. We got James Ellifritz with us. What's going on, James?
Hey, Mel. How's it going? Did you have a good day? Did you get to enjoy the game?
I did for a little bit while I was working, and then my kitten needed some shots. Kids back in school, just trying to adjust to a new routine. But yeah, I watched as much of the game as I could, and yeah, I can't believe it either. But coming from me, but I'm feeling optimistic. This is the toxic relationship I have with this team. Like Monday night, I'm all out. I'm like, unbelievable. I can't believe Tito left Curry in that long. How was your plan then to go to Daniel Norris and what us as fans thought was a pretty big game, probably the start of the biggest series of the year thus far? And then they have a nice win last night, just nice, solid team win. And then I was nervous today. I was like, man, Bibee, sorry, kid, but you got to be perfect. Like, Sonny Gray was carving us up, which I kind of figured was going to happen. Bibee was toe-to-toe with him. I'm about to start calling him Rookie of the Year, Tanner Bibee, because I know Kodai Senga plays for the Mets and whatever else, but Tanner Bibee's been outstanding, and he kept us in it today.
You mean Roy Bibee?
Roy Bibee.
That would be nice.
Himothy.
Yeah, I mean, he's played in so many pressure starts this year, whether it's save a series sweep or an important game like today in order to take the series from the Twins. He pitched on Mother's Day, Father's Day, had his first start in Yankee Stadium this year. So a lot of good starts out of Tanner. We couldn't be more proud of our rookie pitchers and what they've accomplished this season, and still giving us some life here going into almost September. And we're somewhat mildly still in this division race. So just looking forward to see what's going to happen against Texas now, and then get Minnesota back at our place. And that's this stretch right here is what I've been looking at, the make or break stretch of the season, as we've struggled since All-Star break. So let's see what happens with this team. Who knows? I mean, I can't believe, though, our roster, just like the players that are on there compared to opening day. You know what I mean? It just feels like a totally different team that even went into All-Star break.
Yeah, like I tweeted it today, and it was 100% factual. Like, I cannot believe how good Kole Calhoun has been for this team. Like, we got him off the waiver wire. I knew he'd be a Tito guy. I know he's gritty. I know he loves to play. I knew we'd probably see him way more than we should. So I was already prepared for him to get the playing time, which at the time was going to be frustrating because you have Brian Rocchio on the roster at the time. You had Gabriel Arias, Tyler Freeman coming off the injured list. Kyle Manzardo is on his rehab assignment now. And it was kind of like, how are we going to get all these guys at bats if Kole Calhoun's plugging up first base every day, or right field, or wherever they're plugging him in at? But then he just kept producing. And I think that just speaks to what it's been like watching this team all season long, right? Like, you think they're going to get hot and go on a run, they fall on their face. You think they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline, they end up just selling, which, like I've mentioned, a lot of those were good moves. But I don't think any of us looked at this Kole Calhoun, and even Ramon Laureano to a certain extent, I don't think any of us looked at these moves and were like, these are game changers, right? Like, this is going to catapult us to the top of the Central Division. 35-year-old Kole Calhoun coming in and just being like the father of the clubhouse. And I think I kind of underestimated James, like what he was going to mean in the clubhouse. Tanner Bibee was on the pregame show today with Andre, and he was just speaking at length about what Kole Calhoun's presence just in the clubhouse has meant to this group of young kids who's never been there before and doesn't know what to expect. They're probably starting to hit a wall a little bit. And then you got gritty ass Kole Calhoun walking through the door, jersey, uniform all dirty, just ready to go the next day. A guy who's been there before. He's played with some great players, who kind of just knows how to manage the demands of playing this game at the highest level. And I think it gets overlooked a lot by us fans, I think.
Well, I think you're exactly right, because if you go back to preseason predictions and what I wanted is veterans. And I'm not saying, the guy's got, a handful of World Series rings, but man, our young team just needs to see more professionals on this roster and how to prepare yourself and, before games, workouts and getting in the cage, all that. But you know how important chemistry is to this organization, let alone just the locker room. All the way through our minor league system, the players we interviewed in the offseason that are still in the minor leagues, and we would get done with our conversations with them, and it's like, wow, they almost feel like the same person to an extent as far as character goes. And I really think that's just the direction the organization wants to go. They want guys that are gamers, that care, and then have great chemistry in the clubhouse and look to help each other get better. I think that's the key.
Yeah, and not only is he providing that in the clubhouse, but we knew he was going to get almost daily at bats. But the shocking thing is he's producing. I mean, yeah. I don't have that feeling anymore when he comes up to the plate and I'm like, oh my God, why is he Jose's protection? Why is he in the cleanup spot? He's going to strike out. He's not going to do anything, right? Like, I'm like, oh yes, Kole Calhoun's up. Like, something big's about to happen, which, like, I want to, like, make sure I don't have a fever or something, because like you mentioned, our any preview show you listen to about this team before the season, Kole Calhoun, Ramon Laureano, Noah Syndergaard, up until his unfortunate release the other day, no one thought these guys will be major players for this team in August. And obviously injuries have played a part in that, and I think they might have known about Josh Naylor's oblique injury around the trade deadline, and that may be why they chose to kind of take the route that they did, knowing he'd probably miss some time. Then Kole Calhoun becomes available, and it seems like a great fit. But what I find most interesting as we kind of wrap up Kole Calhoun, I didn't know this was going to be the Kole Calhoun episode, but like, he hit the game-winning homer today again. Like, he was one of the extra inning heroes in Toronto on Sunday in that big victory. And then he comes up today and hits the 3-run homer in the 10th inning. And versus lefties, I mean, he's a lefty batter, and we've talked at length how this team is typically just loaded with lefty hitters. And we don't hit lefties well as a team. We never have. I mean, that guy made his major league debut for Minnesota on Monday. Just completely derailed us. Like, we didn't stand a chance against the soft tossing lefty. But then in walks Kole Calhoun. He's batting .304 versus lefties with a homer, 5 RBIs, 2 doubles, and a .906 OPS. Like, he's really answered the bell versus left-handed pitching. And for multiple times this week, he's picking up Jose Ramirez. And that's definitely not something. But this may be hot takey, but, like, I'm concerned about Jose. And I think last year, once we found out after the season that he had that thumb injury, we're like, oh, thank God. That's why he struggled so mightily in the second half of last season. It was the thumb, right? Then we get to this year, and what the hell's wrong with Jose? And I know he doesn't have Josh Naylor behind him, but when you're a superstar like him, you got to find a way. You got to find a way to produce and come up in those big moments. I mean, in the last 28 days, James, he's hitting .221 with 3 homers, only 8 RBIs. He has walked 11 times, so he has taken some walks. He's got a 705 OPS still. Last 14 days, still struggling, .226 average. last 7 days, 250 average. His batting average has dropped almost 20 points over the last 6 weeks or so. What's wrong with our star? What's going on with him?
I don't know if it's, but if you think about it, with the Toronto series, that was the first series we had won in about a month. So it's not just on one player. I'm sure Jose puts it on himself because he is a leader. And I think for him to have a somewhat down year for him, it's not really something that we should be shocked about, whether it's injury related or not, because he's been so good for so long. And with this team that we've had this year and how we've struggled in the second half, I really don't want to put it on him. I really don't, because he's given us so much. So are we trying to just get through this season? We're still in that middle ground where are we contending? Are we developing? What night is it? It just depends. When you're 7 games back, it sure feels like development. Or when you look at some of those rosters before the games are played, or the starting lineup, the starting 9, and you go, oh, looks like they're just getting some guys in to get some playing time. It doesn't feel like contention. It just still feels like development. And I just think that's just the way the rest of this season's going to go. We're going to feel back and forth unless Minnesota decides to pull away, which look at what they did in this series. They decided to give us 2 out of 3, and I hope we get a minimum 2 out of 3 when they come to our place.
And I'm glad you mentioned that floating 6-7 games back, they're 5 back right now, out of the division lead. I've mentioned that a couple times the last couple weeks, and I think it's important enough to repeat, is that if we're in any other division, we're like 15, 16 back right now. And we wouldn't have even been in the race since probably end of May, June. We'll say June just to be safe. But the point being, we would have been out of it. So I think as fans, we would have given up the hope of the playoffs a long time ago. Where now, just the weak division that we're in, and the Twins, once again, not taking care of business and running away with it on their own, it's given us this kind of false hope. And I think this is the epitome of Cleveland fandom, right? Is like, you have this glimmer of a hope. You could, and like I said, Monday, I was like, okay, I'm not going to expect anything the rest of the year. I'm not going to beat this team up. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm just going to enjoy the last bit of this season, because I know once the winter hits and it's cold and it's a blizzard and it's dark at 4:00, I'm going to be missing baseball, right? Even if it's bad baseball, I'm going to look back and be like, man, I wish I enjoyed the summer a little bit more. And then we win the next 2 games, right? So we took the series from the Twins. I said all along, you got to at least go 4-2 in these head-to-head games versus the Twins. And they have a chance to do that, like you mentioned, by taking 2 out of 3 in our place next week. We got Tampa Bay this weekend. They go down to Texas and take on the Rangers. So we're each playing playoff caliber teams. Texas is a mess right now. Tampa Bay's, finding their new groove without Wander Franco. And it's going to come down to these last 3 weeks or so, just like it did last year. And I told everybody this. The Twins are not ever going to run away with this division. They're not good enough. They're inconsistent just like we are. And they have injuries just like we do, right? Theirs are more on the offensive side of the ball. Ours obviously is in our starting rotation. But just this glimmer of hope. Tristan McKenzie and Shane Bieber threw off a mound today. Josh Naylor is currently on his rehab assignment. You're telling me in the next couple weeks we could get Josh Naylor, Shane Bieber, and Tristan McKenzie back? And I know Bieber and McKenzie aren't going to come back and pitch 6-7 innings every 5 days, right? Like, it might be 3-4 innings. But, James, I'll take 3-4 innings of Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie in a game in September you got to have over the likes of Hunter Gaddis and Xavier Curry, who I love to death. I'm just saying, things are kind of lining up that they could make a magical September run here.
I'm not on the Magic bandwagon with you, but I mean, I think we're going to find out more after the second Minnesota series whether or not there's even.
Yeah. If they get swept, it's over. Even if they only take one game, I think it's pretty much over. And I think they get Lopez, Gray, and Ryan in the next one.
Which, that's a tough matchup. I know during the spring training, you were really concerned about Lopez with Minnesota.
Of course, man. Like, I knew this was going to happen. As soon as he went to Minnesota, you remember, I was in shambles. I'm like, this is going to come back to bite us.
If you had to give up Gavin Williams or Bibee, you want them?
No.
Yeah, and it would have been probably another arm.
I would have given up Stephen Kwan, though. Wow, wow, wow. I would have gave up Stephen Kwan.
I don't know about that. I mean, Steven's having. If I looked at his stats, though, he's actually not horrible this year. He's had times where he's been horrible, but when I looked on fantasy baseball, he's still
Lopez?
like a top 40 guy. No, Kwan.
Oh,
but Lopez has been okay, but he hasn't been.
He's been healthy,
really
which
concerned me.
Yeah, if there was any concern I did have about him, it was staying healthy. But for some reason, I felt like a new team, he was gonna be healthy. And I mean, it's one of those trades that worked out for both teams. I think in this day of social media and podcasts, we're all so obsessed with like who won this trade, who won that trade. Like once Noah Syndergaard got DFA'd, Ben Verlander's tweeting like, "Oh, the Dodgers definitely won this trade." It's like, it's not always that black and white, right? Like we get to see Gabriel Arias every day now. And I'm, admittedly, I'm more team Rocchio, but obviously I love Gabriel Arias too. And I hope he succeeds. And he's starting to do that. So that is valuable. I don't think you can look at trades as simple as like Ahmed Rosario versus Noah Syndergaard, right? Like it opened up other spots. Same with, Pablo Lopez and Luis Aray. Sure, like both teams had to give something up, something of value to improve in other areas. And it's a perfect example of one of those where the Twins saw it as the Guardians are a pitching factory. They're always going to be having pitchers coming up. The next great thing, their pitching, they don't have much coming, right? Like they've always struggled on the pitching side. And Luis Aray, he's a great singles guy, but if nobody's driving him in, what value does he have? Is Pablo Lopez at the top of your rotation, potentially starting game one of a wild card series, more valuable than Luis Aray's hitting 360 with mostly singles if no one's capable of driving him in? So I think it's one of those, like both front offices, it was a great fit, and I can't deny it. Even though we went to our rivals, I think it was one of those that was a great fit for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, there's potential there, but I mean, we're still both looking at pretty, bad records this season, and I had to go back to my notes from before the season during spring training when I had to take a look at our division games. So last year, before the rules changed, we had 76 games within our division. This year, only 52, which obviously includes Minnesota, Kansas City, Chicago. So that 24 games less against teams that we typically beat up on. And I think it just goes to prove Minnesota was doing the same damn thing we were.
Do you like the balanced schedule?
I like it because you get to see our team in different cities.
Yeah.
And we get to see different, teams coming to Cleveland that, I didn't make it up there. I would have loved to see the Braves play this season up there, but I think it's fantastic that it's good for baseball in general from a business standpoint, and the fan that lives out of, maybe they moved to a different major league city, but yet now they have that opportunity to potentially see their team that given season coming to their new home. Like if I lived in Atlanta, And I think we would probably play there next year, right? Because
Yeah.
aren't they rotating back and forth?
Yeah, they rotate.
So yeah, if I lived in Atlanta and knew I got to see the Guardians play in Atlanta next year, those are tickets I'm looking to buy.
I agree. And I think from a fan's perspective, especially when we're fans of a team in a very weak division, like we mentioned, it's kind of like balancing in our minds is seeing teams like the Dodgers and the Braves and the Marlins were in town early in the season. Just kind of seeing these National League teams we don't normally get to see in our city. Is it worth like the wins you're kind of giving up in not playing the Central 70 something times, like you said? To me, it is, because you might as well get used to playing teams like this now. I'd rather go see the Dodgers in August at Progressive Field than the Royals for the 26th time. Right? So, like, when you say
Right.
it's good for business, I agree with that, because it entices fans. Because even if you're out of it, which for a while there, we kind of all thought the Guardians were out of it, but they still did well at the box office because it's the Dodgers. It was
Yeah.
the Braves before that. It's teams we don't normally get to see. So it's like if you had the Royals in here on August 30th or whatever the date ends up being, you may only get 17, 18,000 people because we're sick of seeing Kansas City, right? We saw them 20-something times already. So I think overall, I think the balanced schedule, I know some people don't like it because it's like, oh, that's reserved for the World Series. You shouldn't see this team until you meet them in the World Series. But I think with baseball needing to expand their market and to just grow in general, I think this is a great way to get more fans involved.
Yeah.
Because like the younger generation knows these players by like MLB The Show and like social media, YouTube. So it's like if there's a teenager in Cleveland like, oh my God, I love Ronald Acuna. Oh my God, I love Mookie Betts. I want to go see him in my city. I think that is more valuable than just getting easy cupcake wins against your weak divisional opponents.
Yeah, I remember going up to the Indians game when McGuire and the Cardinals were playing during his home run chase of 98. And
Right.
the interleague games, I know they've been going on for a while, but now you're going to have more because last year there was only 20 interleague games per season. This year it's 46. So that can, to me, that can only help attendance. It's going to help probably the viewership for the TV as well. So I just think it's good for baseball. There's been a lot of good things, I think, out of the rule changes for baseball this season. And I really think they'll dive even more into it in the off season. Some of these calls on the umpires with strikes and stuff, I am looking forward to eventually that changing as well, where the robo ump calls balls and strikes. I know some people don't like that, but I think it's gonna happen. It's a matter of time.
It was interesting that the broadcast even mentioned, I can't remember if it was Royce Lewis or Edward Julian, but one of them was on a rehab assignment recently in AAA for Minnesota. And they asked them when they came back what they thought of the robo-umps. And they kind of had an interesting take on it from a player's perspective. And they said it never calls high strikes. So you can go in and you know that up in the zone isn't being called a strike, right?
Yeah.
That totally changes your approach if you can eliminate that. So there's like more that's going to go through a player's head too when you get a feel for how this robo ump is going to work. But I think when you look at umpire scorecards, especially in meaningful games, and you see like 88%, 89%, that's crazy. And it does impact games. Like how many times have we seen, and it just happened in this Twin series, you see a missed third strike call. And then what? 2 pitches later, 3-run homer. You can't tell me that doesn't impact the game. And I'm not saying robo umps will be perfect either, but I think it's at the point now where you have to try something because it's bad across all sports, really.
I also think that for a starting pitcher, some of the ones that have been in the league for a while, and you start getting the same umpire over and over again, you always have to make that adjustment to, okay, this guy calls wide strikes, this guy calls high strikes, this guy's going to, squeeze me. And then you're constantly adjusting to whatever the umpire's strike zone is behind the plate. Whereas just having one simple strike zone allows you to not have to worry about that. It takes the human element out. If somebody back there, maybe you were talking shit with him last game because he wasn't giving you the calls and you got tossed out. And then that guy brings that with him. The umpire brings it into the next game when they happen to be that guy happens to be on the mound. So is it going to hold a grudge and really squeeze the strikes? You take all that out. You know what I mean? That's the direction I know. It's just going to happen. It's a matter of time.
I agree. I definitely think it's something that's coming soon. And speaking of coming soon, could there be some new Guardians coming our way soon as we look at the MLB waiver wire? And I know this doesn't get much attention anymore, but James, I don't know if you caught it yesterday, but as we remember, the Los Angeles Angels sold all of their prospects so they could buy at the deadline, right? The likes of Lucas Giolito, Randall Grichuk, Hunter Renfroe, Mike Moustakas. They essentially went all in. Well, they just placed all those guys on waivers this week. And Randall Grichuk went on waivers and actually exploded last night. Had 4 hits, a bunch of runs batted in. I don't have his stats right in front of me. But Lucas Giolito's on the waiver wire, Hunter Renfroe, Randall Grichuk. You look at the Yankees, Harrison Bader is on the waiver wire. Old friend Carlos Carrasco, who I would love to bring back just as a sentimental thing. But I actually think, and for those who don't know, the waiver wire works in reverse order. So there's a waiver order, kind of I don't know, the NFL during the week. You can put even your fantasy football, right? You could put waiver claims in on people. So that's how it works. The Guardians are 10th in the waiver order. So they could pick somebody up. And I think a guy on the pitching side, Lucas Giolito, would be a tremendous fit to try to just kind of push you across the finish line in September. Give it one last little run. And then Hunter Renfroe on the offensive side, that's the guy who's going to hit some home runs for you.
Mel, are you trying to say that we need some guardian angels?
We need some guardian angels
to help
James.
us.
I wish I had the boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need some guardian angels looking over this team. We don't need any more injuries, no more bad juju. I do think that a little addition could help kind of, I don't know, give them a little push towards the end of the year. Who knows? I mean, look at what Kole Calhoun and Ramon Laureano have done for us.
Yeah, it
Why
feels
not
feels like the pickup softball team when the teams are playing back to back. You just finished your game, and then you look over, there's guys like, hey, can you stick around and play next game? We're short a guy. That's what this team feels like.
It's going to
go do that.
It's going to make for some crazy immaculate grids one day. Who's going to remember in 20 years that Noah Syndergaard pitched had 6 starts for us this year?
When they sell
Nobody's going to remember that.
Well, somebody's going to remember on opening day when they go into the team shop and they see his game used jersey for sale. And they go, oh, that's right.
It's going to be one of Zach Meisel's random jersey sightings in 20 years.
That's exactly
It's going to be oh my God, Noah Syndergaard pitched for us. There was the Ahmed Rosario trade. We couldn't wait to get rid of Ahmed. But again, like I mentioned, one of the reasons they got rid of Ahmed was for Gabriel Arias. And here's your weekly reminder to everybody to be patient with your prospects. We can look back at the Detroit Tigers last year and how atrocious Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter were for them. Those two are finally coming into their own this year. Gabriel Arias is in the same boat for us. Bo Naylor, even to a certain extent. They both went through rough patches, and they are both coming back to life here. Gabriel Arias just beat the crap out of that wall in right center at Target Field this series. If you look at him over the last 7 days, he's batting .304 with 3 doubles, a home run, 2 RBIs, an .899 OPS. He's hitting the ball hard as shit, 100+ miles an hour. He looks like he could be our shortstop. He still can't hit lefties, so he's going to have to figure that out. But I don't think the future, regardless of what happens this year, I don't think the future is as bleak as some are making it. And that's my last little rant before we get out of here this week. You got anything else, James?
You know, the one, I mean, we've talked about how many young players that we have on this team. And, you know, we were thinking this year, for all the names that we just talked about, between Laureano and Kole Calhoun, these guys that are on the roster now that are in our lineup, we haven't got to say George Valera. You know what I mean?
And he's doing he's picking it up at AAA.
Yeah, that was something that, you know, I remember when you and I saw him at Guards Fest. It's like, yeah, we want to see him up at the big league level and see what he can do. But then we haven't even mentioned Jonathan Rodriguez that's hitting a lot of home runs down in minor leagues.
He's so interesting. I want to see him so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that 42% strikeout rate's scary. But, like, if you're providing power at that kind of level, I can live with it.
When we're desperately in need of. So.
Yeah, just anything. Any type of even somewhat consistent power. I'm all there for. But I do think it's going to need to be addressed via trade in the offseason for the outfield. But that's a topic we can get more into next week. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and giving us a listen tonight. Enjoy your off day tomorrow. Try and take a step back, touch some grass, not think about the Guardians. Go enjoy. Hopefully some nicer weather is coming. Enjoy it with your families this last little bit of summer we got. And maybe even head on over to BelieveLandMediaLLC.com when you got some free time and check out all our podcasts and written content. We got you covered on all the professional sports, college sports now, Buckeyes, Kent State, high school sports, where high school football season is in full force now. The team does great work, so make sure you check us out. And head on over to our Twitter page at GuardiansOTCLE. There you can find all our episodes, any guest news, anything regarding the podcast. You can catch it over there. And we just want to thank everybody for liking, sharing, subscribing. It means the world to us. Let's get us on into the top 5 of Guardians podcasts.
Yeah, let's hope the Guardians can just extend this season to where we continue to have that potential to maybe win a division title. It's probably not as realistic as we think, but let's hope for the best. I know the Browns are getting ready to start and going to be a little bit of a distraction, and the focus in the city of Cleveland is going to change that direction to the pigskin. But hopefully we can at least finish strong there, as we wanted a special season, another October to remember at Progressive Field. But I don't know. Let's see what happens. I know normally I'm more optimistic, but
we switched roles.
Yes, I know.
Well, thank you, everybody. Until next week, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and go Guardians.
Go Guardians.